Overstaffing. Have you started seeing the staff list? Have you? Overstaffing had become a huge problem in the cocoa marketing board. Everybody was being placed there. So the Mahama administration came to power and wanted to do something about it. And a lot of pressure was put on them, and they quickly retreated and said anybody at post, stay at post. And so even though the government was finding it tremendously difficult to find the resources to pay the workers. In fact, one official of the cocoa board publicly stated, if you look at their budget, they were spending more than 2/3 of their total budget on staff emoluments. So the crisis was there. It is not around the Abbey Kirin Nkrumah era. I think it was in the early 60s. The cocoa industry was hit by the swollen shoot disease. And the remedy was for government to cut down the cocoa trees so that the infection is limited. The opponents to Nkrumah, the Uncut Buziaists, jumped on this, and this is a historical record, I'm not making it up, and instigated cocoa farmers against the Nkrumah government. And they did it in some way without regards to scientific analysis and so on. Blamed Nkrumah for the swollen shoot disease and so on. Eventually, this was one of the reasons that was given by those who truncated the Nkrumah government, leading to the kind of disaster that we continue to suffer today. So this is not the first time that we're having cocoa politics. We've had it in our history before. The historical reference is important. Now, today, I am so surprised that anybody who knows about the cocoa industry can claim that the crisis in the cocoa industry is caused by Randy Abbey. And that all this is happening because over the last few months, Randy Abbey became the chief executive of the cocoa marketing board. Where is this coming from? And it's so strange, unbelievable, to the extent that they are holding press conferences calling for the removal of Randy Abbey. And how is this tenable? And I'm happy that Titus has distanced himself from that call. Because that call doesn't make any sense. Tomorrow, before the NDC came to power in 2025, over a period of about 4 to 5 years, on this very platform, we have been discussing the cocoa industry. One of the issues that we discussed consistently was the fact that many of the indigenous LDCs were collapsing, and that cocoa buying had become the preserve of foreign LDCs. It's a matter that we discussed here long before the NPP left power.
Right.
That's one of the problems, you understand, and I can go into a lot more detail. One of the issues that we discussed here was that cocoa production had reduced, had fallen by about 50%. For two main reasons. One, diseased trees. Cocoa trees were becoming diseased. They needed to be cut down in order to be replaced with new plants and so on. We discussed that here. That was one of the problems confronting the industry. The second problem confronting the industry was simply that galamsey had led to the destruction of many cocoa farms, and production had been reduced by about 50%. Okay? Now, we have been doing forward sales of cocoa. And the reality is that because production was dwindling, we were not able to meet all the commitments that we had made. So there were a number of years in which we couldn't supply the cocoa that we had contracted ourselves to supply. So as the price started going up, we were earning less than the world market price because of forward sales. The cocoa industry was losing revenue. Cocoa marketing board was losing revenue. The Ghana government was losing revenue as a result of this forward sales as well.
Because you've locked yourself in.
You've locked yourself in.
You can't do anything.
Now beyond that, beyond that, situations became so dire that by the time the Akufo-Addo government was leaving office, lending from external sources for the purchase of cocoa has stopped. If I'm lying, tell me that I'm lying.
The syndicated loan model has stopped.
It has stopped.
Yeah.
So we're now scrambling to find resources in order to pay for the cocoa that we were purchasing.
By the LBCs.
Yes.
They had to go and find the money to go and buy the cocoa from the farmers.
Exactly. Yeah. So there was a huge problem with financing cocoa purchases by the time the NPP was leaving government.
True.
Okay. Now, also, the value addition in the industry had suffered tremendously by the time the NPP was leaving government. That suffered so badly, Coupled with this, it's overstaffing. Have you started seeing the staff list?
Yeah.
Have you? Overstaffing had become a huge problem in the cocoa marketing board. Everybody was being placed there. So the Mahama administration came to power and wanted to do something about it. And a lot of pressure was put on them, and they quickly retreated and said anybody at post, stay at post, and so on. Even though the government was finding it tremendously difficult to find the resources to pay the workers. In fact, one official of the cocoa board publicly stated that if you look at their budget, they were spending more than 2/3 of their total budget on staff emoluments. So the crisis was there. It is not a Randy Abbey created crisis. This crisis existed before Randy Abbey became chief executive of Cocoa Marketing Board. If I lie, tell me. The two of you, if I lie, just tell me. You understand? This is the situation. The price, the producer price of cocoa has been reduced. And that's a fact. It has been reduced. Why? If you reduce the earnings of anybody, any people working in the sector and so on, it is painful.
Yeah.
You understand? It is very, very painful.
Yeah.
Okay? So nobody can say that, look, the cocoa farmers should accept it. It's okay and so on. Even though there are other factors that we have to look at. And what are the factors that we have to look at? All of us are saying that we are happy that the exchange rate has come down drastically. It went all the way up to 17 cedis to $1. Now it's come down to a 10 point something to $1 and so on. What does that mean? What that means is that when you export your cocoa, the cedis you get for your export is reduced. Am I lying?
Yeah.
If I'm lying, tell me that I'm lying.
That's it.
If the exchange rate improves, if the cedi becomes stronger, it simply means that when you export your cocoa and you get paid on the international market, the equivalent in cedis is also reduced.
True.
As a result of improvement in the cedi rate.
Absolutely.
We need to factor that in.
Yeah.
You understand? And then this discussion would ultimately end up in the purchasing power to the farmer, the purchasing power of what is sold, what the farmer sells and so on. But that's one point.
The economists call it the real income.
Thank you. Thank you,
Yes,
my
the
brother.
real
Thank
income.
you. Master, in addition to this, and I'm listening to the farmers, and of course the farmers are divided. It does appear that there are some farmers who strongly support the NPP position, and there are some farmers who say that they understand the situation and so on. Why? You know the crisis of fertilizer for cocoa farmers. You know that.
Right.
Master, the crisis of fertilizer for cocoa farmers. Yes. Should I repeat it?
No, you don't have to. I think it's public knowledge.
At a certain point, we knew that the farmers were not getting fertilizers, they were not getting the inputs and so on. And they made so much noise. Now, not me. I don't know the industry. I haven't visited a cocoa farm in the last 10 years. I don't know. But I'm listening to cocoa farmers, and they say that now the inputs are coming.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've heard them, you've seen the tapes and so on. So it means that there is some improvement. Now, be that as it may, who would be angry if it was possible to pay the cocoa farmers 10 million cedis per bag? Who would be angry?
Nobody.
Who will be angry? Will the cocoa farmers be angry because we are paying them 10 million cedis per bag? No, they won't be angry. But if we are responsible, any responsible citizen who is calling for increasing the producer price of cocoa should be telling us where the money should be coming from. Otherwise, it is irresponsible. Pay them, pay them. Where is the money coming from? What in the national budget should we sacrifice in order to pay cocoa farmers? And if you're able to come and say, look, this expenditure is not worth it, this expenditure is useless, and that we might as well divert this expenditure in order to pay cocoa farmers, then we are making sense. Then we can come along. But simply shouting, pay them, pay them, pay them, and so on, it's a bit problematic for me. It doesn't sound very responsible for politicians to just be shouting, pay them, without showing us where the money is going to come from. I hope I make some sense.
I follow your argument.
Because clearly, the indicators are that even in dollar terms, the purchasing price of our cocoa has come down.
Yeah.
Even in dollar terms. If you come to add the significant improvement in exchange rate, the cedi's exchange rate and so on, the cedi value also comes down again.